This is Goku-san, DBZ, and I welcome you back for another movie review. And here's some suitable music. Today I will be talking about the movie, one of my personal favorites of all time, a really good fantasy adventure, family-friendly film with some creepy elements, but the film is called Return to Oz. And like the title suggests, it is actually a direct sequel to The Wizard of Oz. Originally, of course, done in 1939 would be the release date. Same year as, of course, Gone with the Wind. But this would be a direct sequel released in 1985. And so, very many years later, and it also has, of course, the ruby slippers in the story. Now, like the first film was based off the first of the 15 books in the Land of Oz series, there was a lot of fans that really pushed for the original guy to actually end up writing a story, a second book, which plays an element and part of the direct sequel, Return to Oz. Actually, in total, 2 books they used elements from, and though they actually used a couple elements from another later book. But I'll show you the front, since I got yesterday, the graphic novel, but it's based off of the 3rd book, which this hands down plays the biggest influence in Return to Oz movie. And that is Ozma of Oz. Now, in case you don't know, a little bit of back history on the movie. Ozma of Oz was technically the true heir to the Kingdom of Oz, which, of course, obviously, many things, and like Wizard of Oz in the beginning of Return to Oz, a lot of people in Dorothy's real life and stuff plays a major role in the characters that we see in the Land of Oz. Like, for instance, this takes place several months after the tornado, and we see where they aren't quite finished yet, but they've been rebuilding. Uncle Owen and Auntie Em. But anyways, that is interesting, and they think she's kind of crazy, Dorothy, which, I'm trying to remember the name of the actress who plays the young Dorothy, which is not that bad over of a child actress, but we know her better when she gets older in a movie in the 90s called The Craft. But outside that, it is interesting that supposedly they couldn't get copyright because of MGM with Oz the Grand Powerful. Yet somehow they managed to get ruby slippers in Return to Oz. But that's before, like, the popularity of the franchise became more popular again in the new millennium. And anyway, she goes to, I guess you could say, his mental place to get shock therapy to make her forget about the Land of Oz. And it's never truly, from the first film, it's never truly answered in Return to Oz whether or not the Land of Oz is actually just a fictional place or whether or not it is a real place. And it's hard to say, and they never really answer that question, nor do you ever get an answer like that either in another fantasy universe that became well known for bringing characters from their life into that world, and of course that being Alice in Wonderland. But anyways, she ends up trying to escape with this spirit we see of a girl who tries to help her escape. We learn later on she is Ozma, which is trapped in a mirror world, I guess you could say, where you usually only see her figure in, like, window, or rather a mirror. But, anyways, Dorothy with a chicken this time around, which starts talking. Anyways, they get out by a floating furniture thing, and they end up waking up, and the water turns into a puddle and stuff, and then gets up, and you see a desert, and jumps off to get away from the sand. As hungry and stuff, we see her go to a tree which has pails and stuff inside it, a ham sandwich and stuff. Yeah, well, it's a fantasy universe, so it doesn't have to make sense or within the laws of physics, so keep that in mind. But we also see these little gnome entities inside the rocks and stuff observing, and for some reason a continuing weird thing, which is they're like scared to death of a chicken. Now, it's mentioned in the book as well in Ozma of Oz, because a chicken is a secondary character actually in Ozma of Oz, but the difference is the book revolves more around Ozma rather than, of course, obviously, Dorothy, like in this. And it's mentioned that, of course, when she left home in the last movie, that she lost the ruby slippers on her way back home. She's gonna wish that hadn't have happened. Anyways, she goes back and finds the house, the farmhouse and stuff, and looks and also sees the yellow brick road has been destroyed. And the gnome again goes and returns to his master and says she has discovered the yellow brick road and is on her way to the Emerald City. And anyways, she ends up and seeing all the emeralds are gone, and everyone is turned to stone. Kind of feels like an element there of, say, the White Witch from the land of Narnia. But hey. Anyways, with that said, we see in the end, she ends up seeing also all these, like, girls and stuff, like, their heads chopped off. And we find out why. Because of Mombi, an evil sorceress, who, one, has, of course, is the one responsible for trapping inside the mirror world, Ozma. And obviously she's not the head villain, and we see these creepy creature things called Wheelers. And I'll never forget when I was a kid, the first time I ever saw Return Oz, it gave me nightmares for a while. When I was like 6 or 7 the first time I ever saw it, so yeah, you can understand when you're 6 or 7 that would scare you. Now I look back and think it's funny, though there's still just a tad eerie feeling about the Wheelers. And the main Wheeler is actually based off of a character, of course, you see in the real world from that asylum. Mombi is based off the evil woman from that, say, asylum or whatever, which is kind of the secondary right behind the professor of that place, which we see takes a form in Return Oz, or rather in the Land of Oz. But she ends up discovering the original face, tries to get the magic dust and stuff, brings to life. First she gets thrown in a room, and that is Jack Pumpkinhead we meet, which kind of very tall and thin. It reminds you a little bit of a future character from Disney called, actually, Jack Skellington. It makes me wonder sometimes if maybe Jack Pumpkinhead wasn't some inspiration for the creation of Jack Skellington by Tim Burton. Because I could definitely see Tim Burton watching the film. It's something that feels like something you might have seen from Tim Burton. But it's very 80s in elements of cheesy, but also really weird, out there elements as well. And with this magic dust, though, which Mombi uses to bring the heads back to life and stuff, so she can change out her heads. Yeah, she takes her head off and puts it on a mantle thing. Has like 50 different heads to choose from. Boy, so she treats heads like other women treat shoes or clothes. But in her case, it's heads. Yeah. And that it all creepy. Yeah, it is. Kind of messed up, really. And she brings to like this couch with the head of a dead animal and has like palm tree leaf things as wings. It's just completely out there, and whoever made the movie has either a great imagination or was really on something at the time and was having one heck of having a very trippy experience. Hard to say which it is, or both. But anyways, they end up on the mountaintop. The Wheelers, as they try to come after, end up in the deadly desert. And let me put it this way, if you touch the sand in the deadly desert, you become sand. You die instantly and become sand. Like that. So, it's really quite kind of freaky. Yeah, to think about that. Sand that could turn you into sand and you're instantly dead. Yeah, not at all creepy. Anyways, they come face to face with the Gnome King. And the doctor, which I mentioned from the insane asylum, ends up being the Gnome King. He ends up taking revenge and destroying the Emerald City and the land of Oz, turning everyone to stone and stuff. Why? Because he stated, now whether or not this is true or not, if the main bad guy, the Gnome King, is telling the truth or not, I'm not sure. But he said that the wizard, the great Wizard of Oz, stole all the emeralds to build the Emerald City. Of course, we know the king was, of course, made officially. Scarecrow became the king. And we see in the end, she's given a chance to free her friends, or they become ornaments or knickknacks in the Gnome King's collection. So each of her friends ends up becoming, they get 3 chances, third chance, become an ornament. So then it finally, and as each ornament, each of the creatures becomes an ornament or something in his collection, he becomes more and more human. And by the way, he's wearing the ruby slippers. That's what gave him all these special powers and abilities. Though, of course, we know in the books it's the silver slippers, but that's beside the point. Anyways, and so Dorothy ends up going in. Luckily, the chicken is hidden, but they discover she first frees the Scarecrow, the king, and Mombi also comes to warn the Gnome King, and she realizes she's already too late, and he thinks, smoking a pipe, and thinks he's got everything won. But Dorothy ends up discovering that any green ornaments supposedly are supposed to be members from the land of Oz. Just because they're green. Yeah, that makes sense. And she figures it out far too easily in the movie compared to Ozma of Oz in the book. But anyways, it is incredible, and I highly recommend you check out Return to Oz, a great modern Disney classic from 1985, and I think a highly underrated Disney film, as well as a highly underrated compared to the praise of the original Wizard of Oz, and the box office success of actually Oz the Grand Powerful Witch Man was $500 million. Just like Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz was also a box office bomb. Like other movies, it gained a very loyal cult following over the years. For good reasons. It's a fantastic film. I highly recommend it if you've never seen Return to Oz to check it out. And anyway, in the end, a chicken ends up, an egg drops down and kills the Gnome King. Apparently, eggs are poison to gnomes. Doesn't make sense to me, but it's a fantasy universe and it's the land of Oz, so check logic at the door. Because logic doesn't work in fantasy movies. You have to keep this in mind. That's why they're called fantasy. They're meant to be unrealistic, not in the normal world of physics. But with that said, I give this movie 2 thumbs up. I highly recommend it. And I give this movie on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 out of 10. It's a great film and personally one of my all-time favorite movies, along with Wizard of Oz. And I will continue recommending this movie for many years. It is so undervalued, it's such a great story, and it's interesting when you learn the backstory about the 2 main books it's based off of. One, I forget the name of the second book, Ozma of Oz, and of course we have the robot character Tik-Tok, which is based off of elements from the book Tik-Tok, the Army of Oz, or Tik-Tok of Oz. It's very interesting, but you will see in the end, also Ozma is released, and we see the Emerald Sea restored to its once glory. And the chicken decides to stay in the land of Oz instead of going back home. And Ozma gains control of the ruby slippers and sends Dorothy on her way back to Kansas. So, with that said, this is Goku-Sun DBZ signing out. And I'll see y'all again here in YouTube land soon enough. So stay tuned for any future movie reviews. And I hope you enjoyed this movie review for Return to Oz, the direct sequel to Wizard of Oz from 1985. And as always, I'll see y'all next time. Follow me at twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ as well as Google+. And let me know if you'd like me to go down memory lane, give a in-depth discussion / review on any other movies like maybe Wizard of Oz or Oz the Grand Powerful or many other fantasy movies like this or Labyrinth. Just let me know and I'll see you all soon enough for my upcoming game review of course Dead or Alive 5 for the PS3 and also 2 upcoming Street Fighter reviews, Stage 11 and Stage 12 of Street Fighter The Ultimate Edition. Anyways, see you all soon enough, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day.